Okay.
Okay, welcome guys back to another webinar with me, Nikki Sago, and as always, my partner in crime, Andrew Wallace.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's webinar. Looking forward to going through this with all of you.
Yeah, so today's webinar is going to be a little shorter than normal, but we've kind of hammered in on one point that we want to go through, which is how not to lose a sale in 60 minutes, right? And we're going to go through that right now, right? So here's what we're going to cover on today's kind of webinar, right? So why you should never confuse a potential buyer, right? If you ever been to a shop or ever had too many options when you're trying to purchase something, what tends to happen? You know, a confused buyer will kind of never buy. And we're going to go over some of the stuff which will potentially confuse your prospects and how to kind of solve that issue, right? Next, we're going to go into how to hack your service menu. I'm going to show you a case study of basically what my business looked like when I tried to be everything to everyone, and then the difference when I cut down my service menu and just tried to sell a few services really targeted to a certain demographic of people, right? And then we've got like a service hack audit questionnaire, which should be in the newsletter you have. And that'll give you an idea on like, look, do you really need all the services that you currently have, or can you hack them and make your business a little bit simpler? And we have some time for some Q&A at the end of the webinar, right? So first things first, you should never ever confuse a buyer. Like I said a minute ago, if you've ever been to buy something, let's say something of high value, because that's what personal training, life coaching, nutritional coaching really is, right? It's a high value product or service, right? So if you had to spend $500 a month, $400 a month, $1,000 a month, and you had too many options, what goes through your mind? Okay, you tend to stall, right? You tend to stall on until you're really crystal clear about, okay, this is the option for me. And that's what happens with a lot of PTs. They have so many different options that you're almost trying to sell to someone who's already confused, and you're just confusing them even more, right? So they'll leave thinking, okay, can I get back to you? But that really means the answer is no, because you've really confused me, and I'm going to look elsewhere, kind of thing, right? So you should never, ever confuse a buyer. Andrew, just going back to when you were in when you had your fitness business, when you first started, did you ever come across confused buyers, and what did you do to overcome that challenge?
Yeah, look way back right from the start, you know, when before I had any real systems in place, and everything was very reactive in nature, and just running live as you did through a sales piece. Whenever I talked about what we had to offer, absolutely, I had too many options. And I think the challenge I had, and I'm sure guys when they get started are probably similar, is that I was trying to compete directly with the gyms, you know, trying to provide as many different options as I could. So yeah, absolutely. And as you say, and in that, no wonder when people look at it that they're confused. They like a number of options, and ultimately they were unable to decide. So I didn't get the sale. So it's great that you were able to put this on today.
Yeah, decision fatigue is a problem for most people. And you know what, for us, fitness is quite easy, right? Because we do it every day. We've been around it most of our lives, and we're trained it. So to us, like even the simplest things seems so elementary, but to a prospect, to someone who's never done any exercise in their life, or might have done a little bit, never really looked at a nutrition program, doesn't really understand weight training or strength training, this stuff's a minefield for these people, right? So we want to make it almost as simple as possible for them to buy, right? Not to make it as hard as possible for them to buy, because they're just going to go away and they're not going to buy, right? And as Andrew was saying, I had the same situation with my business. I'm going to show you the price plan I had at the start and at the finish. But we also see this with a lot of businesses. Some businesses have actually had more price options than they had clients. Okay, and that kind of says it all, right? There's no need for that many. If you think about like what clients really, really, really want, right? What does it come down to, right? They either want to look better, they want to feel better, or they want to perform better. there's not really much else that people want from personal training, fitness, health, right? They want to look better, feel better, or perform better. So if they're your only options, then just sell your packages or define some packages based on them goals, right? Them needs of what clients want. I'm going to use this as an example, right? This is a menu of a Michelin star restaurant on the left, right? Now, as you know, Michelin star restaurants are expensive, right? And they make high profit margins on their food. And then on the right-hand side is a takeaway menu. I've just used a Chinese takeaway menu here. And you see the difference in the options, right? There's so many more options on the takeaway menu, and there's not that many options on the Michelin star menu, right? It's much easier for the Michelin star kitchen to really hammer in and make their product, which is a meal, the best they possibly can, because they don't have loads of meals to make, right? They've only got a few dishes that they have to just refine and make better. And they get so good at it that they're able to charge high margins, right? I mean, a mushroom is going to cost the same as a mushroom most places, right? It might be organic, but in a takeaway, that mushroom might cost you £2. In the Michelin star restaurant, it's going to cost you like 15, 16 pounds, right? So the margins are like huge, right? They're totally different. And I just wanted to use this as an example because this is what we see in the fitness industry, right? We see like where, first of all, trainers get lost. And if they're lost, then clients are or prospects are going to get lost, is they have too many services on the menu that they don't really know what to sell the prospect, because they confuse themselves, right? Whereas the Michelin star restaurant, it's like, look, we have a limited amount of meals, but they're going to be the damn best. They're going to be the most amazing meals that you ever had, right? This was my service menu when I first kind of started, right? Or near enough, right? As you can see, I had like 17 options on my service menu. So when it came down to a sales consultation or even my marketing, it was difficult to relay what we were actually doing. Hence why I didn't really get the leads, or I didn't really get the clients once they were in the sales consult, because I'd show them the service menu and kind of try to fit them in where I thought their budget was, what they wanted. But to be honest with you, I had no idea, right? I had no idea what they wanted. I wasn't good enough at asking the questions. And what ultimately happened was they looked at the menu and they weren't sure what they wanted. You know, I didn't do good enough job as the sales rep to think, look, this is what you need. Pick out of like A option and B option, right? I just said, look, you could have this, you could have that. What happens if you do this? And it was just all up in the air, right? And Andrew's menu was not much different, right? How many options did you have on your menu, Andrew?
It would be about, it could be almost that. I would say 15, 16 probably, because as you say, you have like your 1, 2, and 3 times 60 minutes, your 30 minutes, semi-private. Actually, we might have looking through. We would add more because we had more bootcamp options. So yeah, it looked very similar. And it's when you see it like this, it's so easy to understand how confused a buyer would get.
Yeah, I mean, if we took this out of the fitness industry and it was something else and I looked at, I'd be like, okay, where do I start? I'm already confused, right? I don't know nothing about exercise, I know nothing about fitness. I'm scared as hell to hire a trainer in the first place because I'm embarrassed, you know, and now I've got this in my face. What do I do, right? It's just going to scare me away. It will scare most people away, right? But they won't tell you this, right? They'll just tell you things like, look, I need to think about it. I need to ask someone. So you're not always going to get the correct feedback. It's down to your pricing, right? So I would say in coaching is like listen to what your clients are telling you, but also listen to what they're not telling you. Okay. And if you can get used to or get good at listening to what they're not telling you, you're going to be much better at a coach. And this is kind of the same with sales, right? It's like you've got to listen to what they're not telling you as well. The clearer you are on your service options, the less confused your prospect will be, and you're almost guaranteed to make more sales, right? Like I said, people are here to look better, feel better, or perform better. So they're the options that are really good. From a business perspective, this is what I changed my model to, right? So we had basically 3 programs, but 6 pricing options, right? So I'll run you through why I did this. I might have told you guys this story before, but I had a studio which was about 1,000 square foot. the problems that I was coming across was most people could only afford one personal training session a week in my area, right? And I would have to write my home program, or they'd give them a program that they go to a local gym to increase the frequency if they needed to go one, right? Problem two was I wanted to keep my staff, so had to come across the challenge. How am I gonna be able to pay them more to keep them on, keep them happy? And then the third issue was I still needed to make enough margins to make the business work, right? So I just went away like one lunchtime, and just there was a little pond near where I worked. Just sat there and just thought this through, right? That was the first time I stopped listening to other people and just looked at my own business, because everywhere on the internet, everywhere on courses, they're saying, do this, do that. This is the best option, boot camp, semi-private, private. Like, what's going to work best for me? So like, I go, okay, first of all, let's look at the clients, right? I need them to come to my studio 3, 4, 5 times a week, right? I've only got 1,000 square foot. I don't have a full facility. They can't train unless it's an appointment only place. So I have to figure out a model that kind of works, right? Second option is obviously I wanted to pay my staff a good amount of money, much better than the industry rate. So they stuck with me. And then the third was the margins, like I said, to keep the business going, right? That's what it was about. So I came up with a model of like semi-private, but it was more of a hybrid model. It was like a client could do a semi-private session, but they would have access to our group programming. And that was the key for me, right? It was the group programming. We had about 16 sessions on that every single person in my business or in my community was doing, right? Regardless of whether they're doing semi-private, they still came to the group sessions to get the frequency of training they needed to get the results they want. That brought a massive sense of community to our business. It was amazing, right? That even the PT clients or the semi-PT clients, because they got to interact with other people or other clients, which they would never, ever have got to interact with if they were just doing semi-private personal training. So that worked out really well, right? Because I was doing semi-private, I was able to pay my trainers like anywhere between 11 and 14 pounds per client. So if you think about that for a second, that's 22 to 28 pounds an hour. That's massively higher than the industry rate for people who are not doing any of the marketing, don't have the business that's the money they're just getting to turn up and train the clients and do some of the administration stuff on the side. So that solved that problem. And because I was doing semi-private, I was charging anywhere between 35 and 40 pounds. My margins were quite high. They were anywhere between 52 and 55 pounds per session, right? So I kind of solved all the problem with running that hybrid model and just bucketing into just 3 programs. I had my 12-month program. I took out the 3 times a week option. Now you might think, why would I do that, right? There's more money and like surely you should have people training 3 times a week if they wanted. But here's the thing I found, right, is no client ever made the 3 times a week all year round, right? They had holidays, they were ill, sessions got canceled. It was very, very difficult to make up 3 sessions a week. So from a business point of view, it didn't really work out too well, right? 2 times a week, however, it was much easier to make up the sessions, right? If they missed 2 weeks, we could easily add a third one in on that week. People's kind of schedules allowed us to do that, where on 3 times a week, it was impossible, right? Plus, they had access to the small group training, right? Which gave them the frequency of sessions. And the other thing, it allowed me to keep my costs down to the client. As you can see, the highest program on here is £423. All right, where you're going to see a trainer twice a week, plus you get access to supervised group sessions, right? So it took out having to sell £1,000 personal training programs or £900 programs, which again, these clients are great because they're very high ticket, but most of these clients end up going away for 6 months of the year, which was a massive issue on our cash flow. Andrew, did you have any issues with like higher end one-on-one clients, and what was the effect on your business when you ran when these guys went away for a little while?
Again, look, I had a number of lawyers working with me, and before I did a similar plan of attack, they would be looking to pause their programs working with me, and we all know what that means. If somebody pauses, we're not getting paid.
Yeah.
So I was getting hurt by this. It didn't affect them. So I had to look at, what can we do to get that consistency in monies coming in. So Mine was similar in vein, in that with the guys, with the lawyers, we factored in when they were on holiday or when they were away on business that they had that hotel room workout that they could take away with them and things. And we'd use email at the time or text to check in to give me updates. Now I would use WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or something to get them connecting with me.
One of the things I learned over the years that I had my studio and still today is think business first rather than fitness first to an extent. And what I mean by that is, like when I said about why I took away the 3 times a week is simply because as Andrew was saying, right, he had them lawyers and they were away for a while and he didn't get paid, he gets hurt, right? I had to figure out a way how not to get hurt, right? And let's say with the 12 months at 2 times a week, if people did go away, I was able to schedule these sessions into the diary, right? Most people couldn't do 4 logistically. It's impossible for most people, right? But using periodization as my marketing tool, I was able to do that with 2 times a week. I would say, Mr. Smith, look, you're going to be doing 2 times a week for 12 months. However, training doesn't work on the principle that you come 2 times a week, right? There's going to be times where you do 3-4 times a week with high volume of work. And then there'll be like times where you've got high intensity work where we need more recovery, right? And there'll also be times when you're away where you might not do no sessions. But over the course of the year, you're going to be doing the full 104 sessions. And that's the most optimal way to work out, right? So in the sales console, I'd sold them the science of training and it matched and it lined perfectly with my pricing model. I don't think enough people do that, right? And this is where problems happen when they have to pause their training. And when they pause the training, they pause the payment, which is a killer for businesses. So copy it, man. I would just say, just copy what I just said, right? Is that use the periodization model to teach them about, look, some days you're going to be off, some days you're going to be on, but the payment is every month kind of thing, right? That really worked for me. Did you use anything like that, Andrew?
Not to that degree, and I think it's a clever way of going forward, particularly, being in fitness, we know all about periodization. I think the key takeaway and what I did was setting the expectations right from the off when we were talking it through, so that they understood that sometimes there'll be, they may only do 8 sessions a month, but when the other times it might have been 12. But over the course of the year, it balanced out. So and then aligning it and saying, hey, the way I take payment is similar to when you're making payment for your oil, your gas, your electricity, and that it's a monthly payment made, and we can automate that. So through direct debit back in the day, but of course there's payment processing companies now that we can use, and that once they got that and understood that, it was easy, but it was clear communication right from that first meeting with them that made it a heck of a lot simpler to implement.
Make no mistake about it, this is one of the most critical tools that your business will have, which is your pricing and packaging of your programs, right? Not just confusing the prospect, but also unconfusing you, right? When there's less to sell, it's easier for you to sell. Like when a person came into a consult and I had this in front of me, it was so simple, right? To kind of like put them into the right program. I'd ask the right questions, see what they want. Were they interested in a longer term commitment? Were they interested in a short term commitment? How often could they train? What the results? Do they prefer training like more technically based with the private trainer, or are they happy with groups, right? What was their level of ability? And through questioning, I was able to say, look, based on my professional recommendation, I think these are the 2 options that I'm going to give you. Which one would you prefer, right? It was so much more easier, and it would unconfuse the client. It was unconfused me. And on the back end, the administration side of it is a lot easier, because as you get to I had 120 active clients in my business. That's a lot of headache if you're still running all these prices, okay, on the back end. Even if you're using a software like MindBody, OneFitStop or TeamUp, it's still an administration nightmare to kind of make sure everyone's on the right program, make sure everyone's paid, how much money you're owed, and so on. And that cost a lot of time, right? Whereas this, it was much cleaner. I only had to deal with so many pricing options. It was much easier to forecast. And that's the goal, right? I wanted to make my business and my life as easy as possible so I could enjoy the things I do in my job and at work, right? So I want you to take a look at your current training programs and packages, okay? And take the audit at the end of this webinar, and it's also on your newsletter, and just see, look, would my business be better served if I actually had less options on the table? Okay, I'm going to repeat that. Would your business be better served if you actually had less options on the table? Would it make it easier for you to sell to prospects? If yes, then hack your services, right? You'd be amazed at the difference that makes, right? Can you share a few stories, Andrew, about how this worked for you when you went from a large menu to hacking your menu?
Yeah, look, I started rocking in my chair here thinking about it because you're going through this. I was just thinking back to, before and after, and before when, people were taking payment holidays or going off, and then you're having to think, hang on, they've not been back. They only went away for a week, but I've not seen them in 3 or 4 weeks. So you're then having to chase them up, and that takes time. Then trying to work out, where they were up to with their payments and things like that. It was a admin and logistical nightmare. It'd take forever trying to track, and I ultimately lost money on it for things because using spreadsheets and things go miss. So it was scary, and as I say, it's not something I would ever want to go back to or have guys going through themselves. So if you're listening to this and you're starting to rock in your chair thinking about your pricing, as Nikki says, block out some time and just take some time, review it. Use the questionnaire that's in the newsletter, the October edition, which you'll be getting. If you've not got it already, you'll be getting in the coming days. Use that as a tool to get this process started, and streamlining everything to make it as straightforward and simple as what we can see on the screen just makes it easier for you to explain what's on offer and what you can provide those prospects with them becoming clients. And equally, they can see at a glance then of what to do as well. You'll thank us for that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say it again. The clearer you are on your service options, the less confused your prospect will be, right? So you want to make everything super simple for the prospect to invest in you and invest in your services, right? Okay, another thing about how not to lose a sale, or how you would lose a sale in 60 minutes or less, is if your marketing message is not aligned with your operational procedure, right? And we see this a lot, especially with Facebook marketing, right? Because people are dying to get in leads, so they'll do these 28-day, 30-day challenges, and then expect the client to sign up for 12 months, right? It doesn't make any sense, right? So the client is seeing this advert, or the prospect is seeing this advert that's promising great results in 28 days or 90-day transformation. That's what they're buying into. They're not buying into the longer-term program, right? For me, advertising is a great way to get leads, but unless you nurture them properly, they're always going to go with what you've said on the advert. So if that is a 30-day or 90-day transformation, that's what they're expecting from the price point you give them, okay? If you're looking for longer-term clients, then your marketing messaging has to tell them that, right? You can still use like Facebook marketing and stuff to get them into 30-day programs and 90-day programs, but just be careful. Think about the longer-term picture, not the short-term picture. Both me and Andrew see this a lot, especially with social media. I'm just going to use Facebook marketing as the example, but other forms of social media is exactly the same, right? Longer-term clients tend to take a little bit longer to convert from a lead to a client, but they'll stay with you longer, right? I'm just going to bring Andrew into this. What are your thoughts, and what do you see with your clients and yourself with aligning their message to their marketing?
No, it happens a lot, and the goal marketing as a whole, there's mixed messages going out there. But as you say, running these challenges and calling them transformation challenges confuses the buyer. They see transform, they see 28 days, and their expectations are significantly higher than what we know they're realistically going to achieve. So when it comes to the end of the 28 days, they're, you know, they've done their time. They're looking for something else. That's not to say that running a front end offer like that doesn't work. It's just, we've got to be, what we're trying to say here is the message you relay in your marketing has to align with the longer term picture. So having it as a jumpstart or kickstart and saying that, hey, this is just the start to get the ball rolling, but we're looking to work with you longer term, and that 28-day period is a chance for you to trial our services so you can see that, you know, we're good at what we do, and you feel that the program we're working you on is something that you enjoy and can do longer term. But the important thing is that obviously we've always got to look at that longer term plan of attack.
The goal of any business, especially a subscription business like personal training, is to first find clients, but the main thing is to keep clients, right? If you're constantly having to find clients, then it's gonna cost so much money in terms of advertising budget that you're going to be working for zero, right? There's going to be, because marketing costs a lot of money, right? If you're going to do the advertising way, if you're going to do like more organic marketing through writing articles, networking, it's a little bit cheaper, but then it's a bit more time intense, right? Now it kind of depends on you as the owner or your team, which way they want to go. There isn't a right or wrong. But either way, you have to think about, like, even from the front end, getting people in the front end, the goal is to keep them. Okay, so fix the leaky bucket first and then spend money on marketing. If your messaging is all short term and they come for 28 days or 90 days and then they leave, then that's not very good business, right? There's things that you're going to lose clients that way, and it's not going to help you grow your business.
Just on that, sorry, Nicky, it's bringing back memories on that side of things. Is when I first, I'd started as one-to-one PT, and then wanted to needed to leverage, as we all know, that, you know, you're trading time for money. So I needed to improve things. So I went down the boot camp route back in the day. But the message I relayed initially was it was a 4-week kickstart, so that people could get started, have a lot of fun for 4 weeks, and then go off and do whatever they wanted. But as we know, that was a flawed model, because I would have to consistently go marketing for 20 more people each and every time. But then, because they were enjoying it, a lot of the clients through the marketing message I relayed were the type of person that wouldn't want to be seen dead in a gym. And, you know, that was some of the phrasing that I got back from people. And they were asking, right, what happens after the 4 weeks? That thankfully the penny dropped, and we said, oh, we continue on a month-by-month basis. So I was able to give them that option. So instead of having to find 20 new members each time, it was down to, well, you need, let's say 4 dropped out at the end of the 4 weeks. I only had to find 4 instead of 20. So it's really important that we're clear in our own minds, you know, what we're ultimately looking to achieve, what our targets are, and then making sure that the message that we relay in our marketing says exactly that.
It is funny to me, like, how trainers think, like, they're so good, like, what they do, right? They understand the science of it. But when it comes to, like, the business side of it, how almost the service changes. Like, I remember I had to say this to my staff. It was, they were trying to get the client fit in one session kind of thing. And what I mean by that, they were like trying to get as much in that workout as possible. And I sat them down one day and said, look, why are you doing that, right? I guess, who's fitter, your client or you? And they said themselves. I guess, how do you train yourself? Well, I do a set and then I rest 90 seconds. I do a set, right? And then I do it frequently. I'm like, why are you not training your clients like that? Why are you trying to, like, just get as much workout is that a good model to run, right? Or do you just train them properly, right? And kind of the penny dropped, right? And it's kind of weird how as soon as it comes to the business, they try to service the client all in that one session or over 28 days. The reality is it takes a lot longer to get fit, you know? First of all, like, you have to debunk all these behaviors and all these habits that prospects or clients have built up for ages. That could take a month, 2 months, 3 months, depending on the client that you're you're working with, right? And then you can, and to lose weight, like sometimes you got to get them fit enough to start the weight loss process, you know, because a lot of people are that out of shape, right? So this all takes a lot of time, right? And you know what? There's people out there that actually want to hear the truth, you know, because they're bombarded with fast, short-term, get fit quick fixes, you know what I mean? But like, you'd be amazed at how many people actually like love people say, look, it's taking a little bit longer. We're going to work a little bit slower, but you're going to enjoy the process along the way, right? And that's what I did with my business. And that's how I kept so many clients, is my messaging was aligned with this, right? Which was 12-month program, 4-month program. That's all I did. I didn't do anything less than 16 weeks. Okay. Because I knew that like, I'm not going to say we were the best trainers, we was all right, but we knew realistically like what it would take to get a client into decent shape. And it would take a minimum of 16 weeks. Now I know you can do it faster than that, but with how many people, right? That had nothing to do with us as trainers. It had everything to do with clients. If our clients were all athletes, then yeah, 3 months, these guys trained all the time anyway. Like we can start them on day one from lifting solid, blah, blah, blah. They get fit in 3 months. But someone who's sedentary, never did exercise for ages, is scared, loads of behavioral issues to deal with. No way. It's just not going to happen, right? So I would say just look, when you're designing your programs or your packages, be realistic with yourself, you know, and you'll attract that type of client into your business. So here's what we want you to do, right? We want you to look at your service menu, and we want you to hack it down to the most basic, simplest model you can possibly do with, right? And then it will be much easier for you to sell those services, okay? Take this questionnaire just to figure out whether you need to hack your services. And obviously, if you need any help, feel free to share your old service menu and your new service menu with me and Andrew, and we'd be more than happy to help. Okay, so that's it for today's webinar. Andrew, have you got any final thoughts?
No, sorry. Yes, I have. It's just that, look, this is an important concept to grasp, guys. And, you know, Nikki and I are constantly looking through our own business to make sure that we can streamline and make things as simple as possible. Simple for us, so it means the business can run more smoothly, and simple when we're sitting down with prospects so that they can clearly see the value that we can bring to the table, which in turn makes it simple for them to make the right decision for them. So take the time, look at the hack, the questionnaire that we've put together. This has been recorded as always, which I'll upload in a few minutes to the member site, so you've got that. Plus the questionnaire test is in the October edition of the newsletter as well. But commit to doing this and doing a review, and you'll see positive results from that, I'm sure.
Keep everything super simple. Business doesn't need to be that challenging. And it's like, don't over intellectualize everything. It's simply about developing a product or service, being able to sell that product or service, and being able to service the client who's purchased that product or service. That's it. And just get better at that. Always think about the Michelin star menu rather than the takeaway menu, because that's where you really want your business to be, to make the highest margins and give your clients the best service, right? You can't service a client who's paying you £5, £6, £7 to the best of your ability, right? However, if they're paying you 20, 50, 100, 200, you can service them much better, right? So take the time out to develop your pricing model and share it with us. And we will see you next week for another lesson on how to develop your business. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
See you guys. Take care. Bye for now.